everybody. This is L, the designer. I just wanted to tell y'all for this episode, we did have a little bit of audio difficulties on my end when it comes to the recording process. It's not that we didn't necessarily record with the normal quality microphone that we use. It's more so that my computer basically inputted the wrong mic and it used my headphones and a computer mic instead, all the way until around the hour and like 58 minute mark. So we didn't want to really delete the episode solely because the conversation, it really was really valuable. It's actually one of our favorites so far. So we said we definitely should still continue to put this out. But I just wanted to give you guys an update on the audio quality just solely on my end. Rocks is still straight. And yeah, so I apologize for that and enjoy the episode.
So what it do, everybody? This is episode 3 of the ShiftMakers Podcast. I am your host, L, the designer. Along with me co-hosting is La Roc.
Yo, what's good, man?
And again, we're the ShiftMakers.
I'm gonna teach you. Message to America. Listen, just gonna give you a little. This is just a little dope boy logic, okay? Just a little dope boy logic. You got tried yesterday, America. You got tried. Motherfucker damn near came in your house, slapped your mama, and told your grandmama, come on out here and get some too, and then left. So, therefore, if you don't respond, you're gonna get tried again. Cause it's sweet. It's sweet. They ain't did shit. Ain't no consequence. Hey, Peter Paul said try them all. You know what I mean?
So as we return, got some positive feedback from episode 2. Just want to shout y'all out. Thank y'all. Appreciate the positive comments, the positive feedback I got. I do appreciate the kind words, because it does keep us, me and La Roc, going as far as our positive mindset towards the episodes we produce, of course. So y'all keep sending that our way. As we start today, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. How you doing? How you making out?
I'm doing pretty well, man. I'm doing pretty well. Just been keeping up with all of the shenanigans that's been going on at the start of 2021.
Of course.
It's definitely it's definitely looking like it's going to be a very fun year for us. I'm going to say that. What you think, bro?
Well, when you say fun, it depends on your, definition of fun.
Well, I mean, judging by the recent events, of course, we got a couple people not too happy about Joseph Biden being elected as the president. So, some people,
Sleepy Joe, huh?
Yeah, some people I guess didn't feel too kind about Sleepy Joe. So they went ahead and tried to stop that vote from getting processed. Well, stop the electoral process, I guess you could say, from happening. Man. Yeah, and they arrived at the Capitol, and I guess you could say they tried to make their voice heard. I don't know if they was too successful with making their voices heard, but I will say this: it definitely did cause a stir.
I think their voices were heard loud and clear. It's pretty clear how racist America really is. And, I've just seen some new clips. They have new videos coming out literally every day, and they just getting worse and worse. And, we'll get into it a little later about these, people. But yeah, I think America heard them loud and clear.
Well, I mean, so you think it has a lot to do, and this, of course, ain't going to be, our main thing that we're going to be getting into, but it is pretty interesting, and we do, want to holler at y'all about it. So you do feel like this whole little event, it was pretty racist. It was, it was just white supremacists. It was, just the.
Well, let me say this. Well, first of all, you did have, when you have these extremist groups coming out the way they are, and, of course, they support Donald Trump. I want to say what they were protesting wasn't racist, but they were showing their true colors from the stuff they were wearing, from the groups that they're aligned with, and the views they're aligned with. We know what type of people they are. But yeah, I think it was bigger than just stopping the steal. I don't understand what they thought they were going to do. But like I said, they left their footprint and they made it known that they ain't going nowhere.
Do you feel like it was intimidation, or do you feel like it was a peaceful protest?
Oh, no, that was definitely an intimidation factor. I mean, when you listen to the rhetoric that was being used to make these people even go there in the first place, yeah, it was definitely Trump was weaponizing his devoted followers, and he tried to use them to intimidate our government into flipping the results. I mean, that's as simple as it gets.
And all right, so I'll just give my 2 cents on it. I feel like this right here was possibly Trump's worst moment, as far as being, the president. And he did, he got a lot of competition for that. He got some moments pretty much every single year that could, go for that number one title. But I do feel like this one probably takes the cake solely because he now put his base at opposition with the entire country. They already were, but it was more so now they are defined criminals in a sense. So now you can't necessarily be under the Trump umbrella anymore without, you have to be closeted now. And I feel like that probably was the number one thing that probably hurt him the most, because a lot of people were saying he may run in 2024, but that most likely won't happen.
He won't get a chance.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't impeach him, because of course, I mean, just his base just flat out being destroyed. I mean, that's basically what was going on over the past couple of weeks since they did that. They literally have assassinated his base, which, I mean, I feel like personally, even though I don't agree with pretty much anything that his base, tries to push, I don't necessarily think that you should go out your way to demonize them. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you look at the numbers, that is a very large amount of people. Not only is it a very large amount of people, but bruh, I don't know how many millions of people. I think it was like 70, 80 million people, something like that, 60 million people. But if you think about that, you can't really destroy that in that mindset. You have to work with that in a sense. You see what I'm saying?
And when you say work with that, you're talking about the people who support him.
Yeah, the people who support him. I mean, what you gonna do? Like, you have to work with them.
Well, okay. Well, let's start by saying what do you mean by work with them? In what context are you saying that?
So, and that's actually a good question. I'm glad you let me clarify that. So, by working with them, I mean, like, not trying to say, oh, since you supported Trump, you got to go to prison. Now, I'm not saying the people who stormed the Capitol, whatever they get as their judgment for what they did. I mean, it's the justice system. Black people, we had to deal with the justice system for a while now. So, I mean, our breath is pretty much, is worn out as far as trying to complain about the justice system. So, I mean, I necessarily can't complain about the punishments they may get. But what I will say is the people who necessarily didn't storm the Capitol, who may have just say, like, I don't know, put a sticker on the back of their car, like what some Trump people do, like put flags or whatever around their house or something. If they doing that, I don't feel like we could, cancel them in a sense. Because that's a lot of people. And you don't want to go about the business of canceling. And me, I don't personally agree with canceling anyway, but you don't want to go about the business of, say, firing them or not working with them or not doing business deals with them, all because of them doing that. Again, because now you're trying to ruin the livelihood and the lives of people who may have just made a bad decision. And I feel like if we want to really get, and this is, I'm saying all of this for a reason. I feel like if we really want to get somewhere with people, we have to start showing unexpected empathy. And by unexpected empathy, I mean empathy that we probably wouldn't expect in return to us. You see what I'm saying? So what I mean by that is just because we feel like we may not get certain empathy back, we should still go out our way to possibly show that to them and still try and work with them and not just, like I said, demonize them solely because, again, by being a large, and this is just me just looking at it as, okay, it's a large amount of people. If you go at odds with a large amount of people, there's only one way all of this could turn out. And that's why I'm saying you have to figure out a way of how can you possibly get reckoning in a sense.
Okay. All right. And bro, you exhibiting some king behavior right now. I appreciate everything you said. I appreciate it. But I totally disagree. I totally disagree. And let me tell you why. Bro. Because, all right, first I'm going to go back to the word mistake. And this is truly how I feel. From the start, you knew what Donald Trump was about. You knew what type of man he was. The lies began from the minute when he was campaigning for his first term. Let me say this. I feel like after 4 years, after literally all of the things, all of the controversy that he has caused, all of the lies, which they don't believe is lies, but, and I'll get to that a little later, but I don't see how I can't empathize for somebody who can turn a blind eye to everything this man has done and said. And it really is mind boggling to me. And I stray away from talking about this every day because I can go on and on about it. It's crazy to me how when you look at Trump and his following, it's literally a cult. Like literally when.
All right. Well, I would be careful with the word cult because you could say the same thing with Democrats and black people.
Okay.
Black people follow. Okay. Yeah. You see what I'm getting at.
That's right. But, and this is why I say I feel that way, because this is a man who can go out and he can say, that's a lie. This the truth, with no evidence supporting him, with evidence supporting that something he's saying may be, it contradicts what he's saying, basically.
Right.
And his supporters will still say, I believe Trump, regardless of all the lies and all the evidence brought against him that, clearly shows the type of person he is. And this is I don't want to get too far because I feel like we're going to touch on it later. But this is where his Republican colleagues and news networks come in, because they eat up and they spread the same lies that he spews. And maybe that has something to do with why they're so attached to him. Right. But to return to my original point, I don't feel like you can empathize with these people. Now, and I'm not saying all of them, because of course you can't just generalize them like that. But a good majority of them support Trump after everything he's done and said. And I just don't see how you can empathize with that after 4 years of blatant lies, of blatant disrespect. And I can't get behind it.
So And you know what? I'm so glad you actually took this position, because this is very interesting to, have this dynamic where, we can actually go back and forth with this, right?
Yeah.
So, personally, I feel like it's not necessarily sympathy when I say empathy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So empathy, and this is just the definition, my personal definition of empathy. Empathy means basically having an understanding of why someone feels some type of way or does something, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sympathy means feeling sorry for them and wanting them to, in my personal definition, feeling sorry for them and wanting them to be in a better situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's sympathy. So empathy is just trying to get that understanding of why. So me personally, I feel like we want to be empathetic because we need to figure out, okay, why do these people support Trump so bad? Because at the end of the day, it's been 4 years now. And like you said, through all of the lies, all of the crazy shit that he said, basically, bro, like the media trying to destroy him in every single way possible, Twitter, whatever, like nobody basically is for Trump outside of his base. So we need to figure out why they are for this man. Because we can't just keep on saying it's all about race. Oh, they just racist and they see Trump as a racist, so they relate to him. Like, I truly don't think that people would go to bat to somebody like that. Like you said, kind of join a cult in a sense, all because of the race thing. Because to be quite honest with you, the majority of the Democrats to me are racist. So why would they even be Republicans if they just trying to, you see what I'm saying?
Can I chime in for a second?
Okay, go ahead.
And I don't want to take away from your point at all. So don't get me wrong. I don't think it's 100% race. Of course, he has political views that people may agree with.
Yeah.
Yada, yada. But the issue for me is, this man, it really, it pisses me off. But it's just like, it shows what type of person you are, regardless of his views. Because if you feel like it's, his political views and some policies he's trying to push, okay, Pence is a Republican. They're Republican views. A lot of those same views can be brought forward from, any other Republican. But it's like, how can you align yourself and support a man like Donald Trump? Like, again, I don't want to get into specifics of what he's done and what he said, but it's like, how can I empathize with someone who has no empathy for anybody else? Because just look at Donald Trump. He's dumb. He's stupid. He has no empathy for nobody else. So how can I empathize with people who align themselves with him? And
I'll throw this your way. So you saying that, but I can literally take that exact same argument and throw it on the other side. And this is me completely playing devil's advocate, because I honestly have no foot in the race. I personally feel like the Republicans don't care about us. The Democrats don't care about us.
Yeah,
so
no.
Yeah, I know I have to probably remind y'all this every single time, but I'm just reminding y'all this, that we have no foot in the race of this shit. So, I feel like you could apply this same argument to the Democrats, basically, solely because, as far as why should we be empathetic with them? Like, bro, these people go out on stage and promise all of these different type of things every single time to black people, especially. And they lie. Literally, we saw Bernie Sanders for 8 years, damn near, push policies that he know will rile up black people in a positive way, that he know he couldn't pass, which was basically a lie. And if anything, God forbid, of course, was to happen to Bernie Sanders, we would feel empathetic towards him, right?
Right.
And that's my point. It's just the way I feel like both parties do these things. it gets under people's skin. Republicans, they do it in a such blatant and what can come across as rude and disrespectful to, some people way. It comes across as I just can't fuck with them. But the Democrats, they do it in a more subtle way. And I'm not trying to go in the Democrat Republican type of debate with all of this. But all I'm saying is with his supporters and stuff, I feel like a level of empathy maybe needs to be shown solely so we can understand why he initially voted for him. Solely because, like I said, bro, there's literally almost a majority of this country that wanted what he wanted. So we need to understand why. And I feel like I may have a sort of kind of understanding, which is why I may be a little bit more sympathetic. Not sympathetic, but empathetic. Solely because I'm looking at the map of who voted for him. And I feel like that map, a lot of people really isn't realizing the importance of that election map, bro, because it really tells you all you need to know about all of this stuff. Like, bro, again, if you look at that 2020 presidential map, all of the cities, all of the major cities, and it ain't got nothing to do with black people, but it literally just has to do with a way of thinking in a sense. So, and of course, job opportunities. So all of the major cities, along with all of like the college towns, almost all across the board voted Democrat, which is why in say like Texas, you kind of see a sort of kind of almost flip because in all those college towns in Texas voted Democrat. And it was just left the rural areas, which Texas still left red. But all of the rural areas, of course, overpowered those cities and those college towns and became, still Republican. But I'm putting all of this into perspective to show you the cities and college towns provide what opportunity, right? Like right or wrong.
Right.
So if you're living outside of a city in a rural area or in a, white collar, I don't know if it's white collar or blue collar, whichever collar that go along with this to make me sound right.
Blue.
Yeah, blue. you know, like coal mines and fucking dirty ass knuckles and you got a fucking lunchbox and shit. Yeah, those areas, which is literally majority of America. People think cities make up a majority of America, but no, in all actuality, majority of America is what I just described. So, if you have a whole lot of people filling up the majority of America and all you have is these little condensed pockets that just shares one similar mindset, which is, of course, the Democratic mindset. That is why I feel like a lot of these people voted for Trump is because they're not in opportunity zones in a sense. So, and I'm just trying to put all of this into perspective. If you have pockets of opportunity, so say, for instance, me and you, if we live in a city, we can make maybe 20 to 30,000 more than if we lived in a rural area. That means that we're going to have, be more well off. Our mindset, like I said, is going to be completely different. And just economic balance is going to be completely different. So the policies that I may want may not match what you may want in that rural area, which is why we always see in Louisiana, it's going to forever be a red state, because no matter how many black people is in Baton Rouge and in New Orleans, and not even black, but multiple races or Democrats is in those two cities, there's always going to be more rural towns in Louisiana who do not care one bit about the Democratic policies because they need the oil field, which is, a number one thing that Republicans push, oil and stuff. So you see what I'm saying, bro? I'm just trying to pull this into perspective as to why people vote and go so hard behind Trump is because their livelihood depend on that in their mind, in a sense. And this is just me, again, playing the devil's advocate, not saying that they may agree with all of the stuff Trump may say, but if Trump is getting on stage and basically telling them, hey, the Democrats is taking, when Trump get on stage and he always say, the Democrats, they're taking away the oil fields. They're taking away your coal. They're taking away your yada, yada, yada.
Right, our jobs.
Exactly. That it paints a picture in their mind and it brainwashes them. Go back to our first episode. It brainwashes them into thinking, okay, if he doesn't get in office or if he doesn't, my livelihood may be gone. And they already at probably, again, I'm trying to paint the picture for you. They're probably already in a impoverished position compared to people who's in cities. You see what I'm saying? Because they're making much less money because of the opportunity isn't present for them. So again, that's why you have maybe people who support him in a cultish type of way because of the policies. And then too, again, Trump isn't the traditional politician. So the way he talks and the way he acts, they feel like they're not getting bullshitted.
Right.
And
I was just about to say, like, it's a stark contrast between I'm just George using Bush. Obama. Right. But like even that.
The last
because he's not politically correct at all. He has nothing like that about him. So I get that. And go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
Hey, no. Like you was actually on point. Exactly what I was trying to paint. Like, just think about Bush. When you think of a picture of Bush, you think of Bush with his blazer on. He's sitting in the chair with his arms crossed, his legs crossed. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with Obama. It's the same exact picture. It's, pristine, calm. I'm going to address everybody in my speech, Martin Luther King type of vocal pattern to make it, very Southern Baptist church-like. And all of these politicians all does this same thing. And they, all sit with their legs crossed until Trump came along. Yeah. And then you got... Oh, go ahead. My bad.
Oh, all right. So basically what I was about to say too, and I don't want to, get away from that point you were about to make, but I feel like too, I'm drawing a blank right now, actually. Go ahead. I'm gonna get it back.
But until Trump came along and he basically gave them a complete 180 that a lot of course, the Republican base already was, used to. And they were sick of that shit because they realized, hey, these Democratic towns and Democratic cities and all these different type of things, they're in I won't say they're in a better position, but by them being in cities and stuff like that, there's more opportunity. And then too, with the advent of course, climate change and things like that, a lot of, again, the Republican side of things, a lot of their opportunities is literally getting stripped away from them because of, people pushing climate change, which is, again, you guessed it, one of the number one things the Democratic people always push. So if you literally having jobs and opportunities getting snatched away from them when that's literally all they have to rely on, and then you got another guy that comes in, like I said, who's Trump, who's the complete opposite, who says, you know what, I'm going to stop it. I'm not going to let them do that. In fact, I'm going to bring in more jobs and I'm going to stop the trades that we doing with China at the mass thing so I can bring in more manufacturing jobs and all of the type of shit Trump was trying to push. And to some degree, I think he actually did kind of succeed in doing like the thing with China, bringing in manufacturing jobs. Not necessarily saying that Trump brought in a whole lot more jobs, because I personally don't think he did. Quality jobs, I personally don't think he did. But I'm just saying that's probably why they feel like they need him to be in office. So they're going to ride for the dude. Like they're going to ride for dude if, they need him to provide those opportunities and keep providing those opportunities that they need to survive. I mean, I'm sure you probably would too.
All right, that makes sense. And this is what I was about to say earlier. As far as his behavior, when you think of, any other president or politician for that matter, I feel like it's a double-edged sword with what he's doing. Because like you said, a lot of people feel like it's, a no bullshit attitude. He's been very transparent. Right. And at the same time, the way he's brash and, he just goes out, how you have the option of, doing something stealthy, go out and guns blazing. Yeah. He goes out guns blazing, and some people may be turned off by that, even, Republicans. And that was kind of what we saw, when he first began to run. So I do feel like, that can go both ways. Some people might see it and like it, and others might see it as he's not fit to be in office.
And I mean, I do completely see what you're saying as far as him kind of missing that leadership quality, which is kind of, him being not.
That's what I was trying to get to. Yeah. Like he exhibits no leadership to me at all. But at the same time, that can't be true, because look what he was able to pull off.
Right. Well, all right. So, and this is my whole beef with Trump. Because me personally, I don't go down a racist path. I never was that type of motherfucker to just point at everybody and call them racist just because everybody telling me they racist. I don't even honestly think Trump is too much of a racist. I just feel like he's just by him being a first billionaire president, I feel like he's just overly comfortable. So when you're overly comfortable, you just don't care.
And let me, and I think I know where you're going with this. And correct me if I'm wrong. So when we look back at when, especially on a debate that was perfect, when they asked him to denounce whichever, white supremacist group it was, the Proud Boys, and he refused to do it. And, some people can look at that and say, well, he knows that a large group of those folks are his supporters. So why would he go and turn them away from him instead of gathering as much support as he can, to gear up for this next election? Right. So, some people can argue that point, but at the same time, and this kind of goes back to the point I was making earlier about, the type of person you are. It's like he refuses to denounce those groups. He clearly riled up those groups. There was a lot of them there for the Capitol riot. And like I said, when I feel like it's a difference between supporting somebody's views, because again, any other Republican most likely has the same views that Donald Trump has. Right. The same. Okay. So this is where it kind of goes a bit deeper for me, because I feel like, and you say you don't think he's necessarily racist.
Wait. I didn't say that. Personally, I feel like literally, I'll say it again. I feel like all of them is racist. Mm-hmm. I personally feel like literally all of them is racist, but I don't feel like he's as racist as the media and everybody makes it seem like. Is if he see a black person and a white person together, he would only care for the white person and not give a fuck about the player. Like, I personally don't see that. I just don't. I see. Okay. Now I'll say this. What I see is a man that only cares about opportunity. Mm-hmm. So if the black person has a family that can influence that, she or he can influence the vote for him, I feel like he would care about the black person more. And if the white person only have, say, a sister that he or she can influence, he would definitely care about the black person more. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't necessarily really think it's more of a racist issue. Now, I do feel like the policies that's in place, he will, of course, keep in place to benefit white people. That's why I say there is racist aspects to the man. Just like presidents before him, there's racist aspects to all of them, because all of them could have did certain things to change policies that's in place if you really wanted to make America equal, which is, of course, the opposite of racism. So what I'm saying is, I do feel like, he is very opportunistic when it comes to that type of stuff. But I just feel like personally he comes off as racist because of just his dialect, how he talks, and then him not caring. And when I was saying he doesn't care, I'm saying he really doesn't care about people's feelings. I truly do feel like that's just him. Like, you could see that the second somebody crosses him, he will literally not care about you. He did it with Pence. He did it with the Ted Cruz when he called his wife ugly. Like, the man does, like, and that's what I'm saying. I just don't see he's racist, because it's like Trump is literally the definition of free smoke. Like, this man, like, in all serious, black people, we always talk about free smoky shit, but he really is. Like, in all seriousness, have you ever seen somebody who can literally beef with everybody, no matter what? No matter if you supported him and rode for him for years and years and years, the next day he will beef with you, no matter what.
I haven't, but let me say this. I think his racism is pretty blatant. And I heard every point you made, but when I can look back and maybe this first point may lend to him just not caring in his dialect. But when you go back to him talking about immigrants and calling them murderers and rapists and referring to them as only that, when you look back at Black Lives Matter protests, which were majority peaceful, you only had the riots popping off here and there. And I don't want to minimize that because rioting is not good in any way. But when you look at that and how he referred to Black Lives Matter protesters, and then the stark 360 when it comes to the Capitol rioters who he loves and are special people, and the Proud Boys who should stand back and stand by. I just feel like though just that alone, it's much more over the last 4 years, but just that alone, it's like, and maybe I'm wrong for feeling like more people should, feel. And when we talk about this word empathy, maybe I'm wrong for thinking more white folks, even more Trump supporters, because there's all type of people that support Trump, right. Which is wild to me. But why align yourself with somebody like that? Just strictly because of their political views. If you were about the American way, if you were a true patriot, then you know the values that America stands on, and him not wanting immigrants coming in, and him blatantly disregarding other races or nationalities.
So,
and bigging up white supremacists, it's just wild to me, bro. Like it literally leaves me speechless how we let this happen. So how did America get here?
So let me just combat. Not want to say combat, but just steer you in the direction of my perspective of all of this that you just said, right? So as far as him, I guess you could say covering immigrants and black people, how he covers them. Again, I do feel like the man is a racist. I just don't feel like I truly don't feel like he's as focused on race as everybody is what I'm saying, as everybody think he is. Now, I'll actually raise you one better to help your argument a little bit. So, in those protests, when he was talking about, of course, the looters and all of this type of stuff, the rioters and all of that type of stuff, he addressed them and he called them thugs and shit like that.
Oh, when they start looting, start shooting. See, it's a little shit like that really pisses me off, bro.
No. And that point right there, and I'm glad you actually said, because I forgot the right words that he said, but that was exactly what he said. He said, when the thugs start looting, that's when y'all start shooting, or that's when we start shooting. It was some shit like that. And we kind of got off on a big ass tangent because we were talking about his leadership.
Yeah, we did.
But what I'm saying is, I feel like Trump, that right there was probably one of his most racist things just from my perspective, he probably ever said or did. For one thing, he used the word thugs. Anytime somebody say thugs, they trying to say nigga.
Right, think of a black person with their pants sagging with a white beat on, so, hat backwards.
Right. So like whenever somebody say thugs, just substitute it for nigga. Second thing is, it was a whistleblowing type of thing, basically saying, we bust back. And it's like, why is you putting that on everybody that's protesting when obviously all of them, the great majority of them, isn't violent? Right. So that moment right there was probably, to me, his most racist moment, solely because it really could have gotten extremely dangerous. So that's why I say it's racist. I'll say, as far as his leadership qualities, that was probably the biggest reason why I felt like he couldn't be president. Not necessarily, like I said, him being a racist, because again, I really do feel like a lot of Democrats is racist too. So if Trump is, a racist and he can't be the president, then a lot of the Democrats shouldn't be in office. Right. But that's a story for another day. same thing with Republicans. A lot of Republicans shouldn't be in office if we going by the race thing. Mm-hmm. So the leadership thing is what did it for me, because when he basically got on stage and was causing mass hysteria about the votes, not even way before the votes, but when you go on stage and you cause mass hysteria, even when it comes to the riots and stuff, when he was causing mass hysteria, I'm like, fam, if you're a leader, you can't try and in a time of desperation, you can't rile people up. It's the last thing. And that's why I feel like a lot of people really liked Obama. And that's probably my favorite thing about Obama, or, you know, the rare Obama compliment coming from me. It was his leadership skills. Like, Obama was a really, 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 really good leader. Like, and, you know, in the times of tough shit, he got on stage and he was very eloquent. A
speech that really moved you.
And to me, Obama's best highlight, like, literally throughout his whole 8 years, the only thing that I could possibly say was his best highlight was his Trayvon Martin thing, when he was on stage and he was like, this is tough. I don't know if it was Trayvon Martin, but it was one of them. But he was basically was saying, you know, this is tough. I gotta, you know, you gotta look your kid in the basically was telling the black story on stage to people. And I'm like, if only he could do this more often. That way people, the reason I'm saying it is because Obama, if you're a leader and people and you have the country's attention, that was literally a moment where white people was able to understand a black person's plight, even a black kid's plight of being, you know, dealing with people like George Zimmerman and the fucking police. So, but he did that only 1 or 2 times. He had 8 years to do that. But that's a story for another day. All I'm saying is the leadership, the leadership of Trump it just was terrible from the jump, like literally from him campaigning. He showed he had ass leadership qualities. And that's why I just could never vote for the man, because I just couldn't do that.
And that's the crazy part, son, because I feel like I just said, a few minutes ago, some people, and me included, can look at him and the way he behaves and says he has no good leadership qualities. But how else could he have half the country feeling like the election was stolen, have that group, and let me say this too, a majority of the people who went to the Capitol, they, you know, I don't want to say a majority because I don't know for sure, but I know a lot of people weren't violent. A lot of people weren't, you know, trying to cause all of the trouble that did happen, you know, but for 4 years he maintained, and I think he knows how to play to his audience, and you kind of spoke to that a little earlier. But, and from our brainwashing episode, you know how we talked about fear mongering and that type of thing, right? Just the rhetoric that was being used, and to kind of bring it back to the Capitol riots, or the Capitol riot, Trump, along with other Republicans, along with specifically Fox News, even starting in October, Trump was saying that they were going to try to steal the election.
Right.
It started early.
They were all complicit.
It started early. And up until the election, and obviously through the election, they echoed those same sentiments to the Republican voters and got them to the point where they truly believed that something fishy was going on behind the scenes, that our government wasn't being transparent. And again, when him aligning himself with these white supremacist groups, some of the shirts that they were wearing, the shit they were chanting, hang Mike Pence, them having a noose on the lawn of the Capitol, like crazy. And this is why I say that they sent their message loud and clear. Even though they didn't overturn the election, it just shows you that the current state that our country is in. I mean, they was chanting, fuck BLM. They were in there looking for Nancy Pelosi. And this was the craziest part, bro. I'm watching these videos of these people in there. And for one, they in there, they marching up the steps, chanting treason while they're literally committing treason. They go in the house and they getting on their knees and they praying. And this was kind of where it was, I'm looking at this and it was getting crazier for me, because now you look at Republicans and Christianity, right? And this is a conversation for another day. But, you know, I've had a, you know, debate with coworkers about how the Bible can be interpreted multiple ways. Right. And how people can use those interpretations to fuel what they believe is right and what's wrong. Right. Of course, you can just look at slavery as one of those things, because white people believed that was the right thing to do. That was what God wanted. But just looking at all of that unfold and seeing more and more videos coming out, and this is another reason why I say I can't be empathetic for these people, because they contradict themselves so much. It's like, how don't they realize that they're contradicting? Do they not care? It's just hard to understand. It's a hard dynamic to understand, because like I said, they in there and they feel like they're being so patriotic. They're beating police officers with American flags. And bro, they brought up. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just about to say, it's all a direct correlation. To be honest with you, a lot of white supremacists. And let me get my white Southern voice. A lot of white supremacy.
That was pretty good, right?
A lot of that has to do with contradictions, hypocrisy, and all of the above, oxymorons, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. If you just look at the KKK, right? So what is one of the biggest symbolisms of the KKK? It's a burning cross.
Oh, burning the cross, right.
So, but the reason, and I don't know exactly why they do that, because obviously they ain't in the fucking KKK, but what I picked from just knowledge of me being taught about the KKK is they do that because of religious reasons. It's out of respect for God. So you see what I'm saying? So it's contradictory in that itself. And that's like one of the main things they do, along with one of the biggest reasons why. And I mean, you can even take it a step further, bro. One of the biggest reasons behind the Holocaust and all of that was a bit contradictory. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And it's just so many that you can point to, like such as, you know, them talking about, of course. So first of all, one of the, and I don't find this funny, because I want to preface what I'm about to say, because 5 people did die that day. Right. These were the same people that was saying Blue Lives Matter and retaliation of Black Lives Matter. The same people. And they went up there and they fought the police officers. They beat the police officers. They killed the police officer. And this was the funny part. Well, I don't want to say funny. This was the crazy part. I'm watching clips of them inside, and they talking to the officers, and they're saying, oh, we've seen a lot of people get hurt. We don't want to hurt you. We on your side. And yet they still, like I said, beating these people up. They doing all of this. Also, these are the same people that condemned Black Lives Matter protests, that condemned the riots and looting. Yet they went in there, they caused the riot on federal property. First of all, and this is just bewildering how they even got that far on the Capitol in Washington, D.C. But they go up there and they're looting. They're going through the desk of the politicians. So it's like, you sped on us for the whole year for one, equal rights for our people. But then you go up there screaming patriots and, you know, the being a true American, and what you did was the complete opposite. That type of stuff right there is what I just can't look past and be like, oh, well, let me try to understand why these people feel this way. It's like, y'all are true idiots. Y'all are idiots.
Again, I'm not saying, and that's why I prefaced when I was like, we need to be empathetic, I wasn't saying we need to be empathetic with the people on the Capitol, because again, whatever happens with them, you remember what I said, whatever happens with them with due process and justice is whatever, because I mean, that's how we get treated. So whatever. But what I'm saying is the people who voted for them, the 70 million people or whatever who supported the man, that's where a little bit of empathy has to come in, because not all of them was on the Capitol in the first place. Not all of them agreed. Not all of them. Yeah, not all of them agreed with storming the Capitol. And I can actually tell you that because with me just being out here in Georgia, a lot of people had, bumper stickers, had Trump flags and all of that. I'm talking about before this Capitol thing. Literally the next day I have yet to see since the 6th, and it's the 19th currently right now. So we're looking at 13 days. I have yet to see one Trump flag, one Trump bumper sticker, one Trump yard sign or whatever. So I literally do think a lot of them didn't agree with that. And that's why I'm saying, just because of, and this is why I say we need to be a little bit empathetic, right? So every single day in the media at 10 p.m., at 6 p.m., at 9 p.m., what are they portraying about Black people?
Violence.
All right. So they're portraying violence and nothing but negative things. Does that represent even above 5% of all Black people?
No.
It doesn't even I don't even think it represents 3 or 2% of Black people. It really represents a very, 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 very small minority of all Black people. But the media portrays it as if it represents all of us, right? And what I'm saying is, I truly do feel like it's kind of something very similar what's going on. And what I'm saying is, the media now has an event in their back pocket where they can now portray all of these quote unquote Trump supporters and his quote, all of these people who may have voted for him and all of that. They can now portray them and demonize them similar to how they do Black people, even though it's a very small minority who may think and may be as extreme as that group of people. And the reason I'm saying it gets dangerous and why people need to start empathizing with these people is very similar because of how it gets dangerous towards Black people. They can now, if it's not addressed and if a level of understanding doesn't happen, they already feel ostracized, but they may feel even more radical, I'll say. They may feel even more radical than how they currently, even the more subdued ones may feel. And it may come to a point where they don't have the level of restriction as Black people, because we've been Black our whole lives, is what I'll say. So they don't have the level of understanding of, okay, this is your role, so you kind of have to accept it, as Black people have. You see what I'm getting at? Yeah. They only been in this role for a couple weeks.
This is our capital. This is our country.
Exactly.
That's how they always felt.
So what I'm saying is, but they haven't been in a role of being demonized and all of that shit before. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, with them only having that over the past couple weeks now, they may not know how to react towards that. And that in turn can lead to a very, very negative soon future if it's not empathized and addressed. If you just say, all right, fuck them. We can't, we got to fire all of them. We can't do work with none of them no more. We can't have no conversations with them. All of them just have to be pushed off to the side. And that's why I'm saying we can't do that, because it's a lot of fucking people that feel like that. And in all seriousness, we the ones that's kind of in the pocket. They are spread all around.
and to, to make it clear, I don't agree with, I guess, like you said, canceling people for their political views. Now, of course, the people who were storming the Capitol, they deserve everything they get, and we made that clear already. But I'm glad you used that word, radicalized. And I do feel like, and of course, we don't want to make generalizations, but I feel like he has, over these past 4 years, radicalized a good a good portion of his following. And
Right.
and like I said, bro, I just feel like everything from him down to the media, I just felt like all of them played a part into what was a ticking time bomb on January 6th. And that could have been so much worse. It could have been so much worse than what it was. But it then makes you look at the FBI, because they've known these white supremacist groups were saying these things. And I think we talked about this on that phone call a few days ago. The way they handle domestic terrorism as opposed to foreign terrorism. The FBI knew these people were planning this. So why weren't the Capitol Police briefed? Why weren't they prepared? Why was it so easy for them to just waltz up to the Capitol and go straight in there? Like, these are some questions that hopefully we can get answers to in the next few weeks. But the whole situation, his whole presidency has been, it's been cultivating, and I feel like that was the ticking point. Like that was yeah.
And I ain't trying to go completely away from what you was talking about, but you said something very interesting that I do want to touch up on, especially while we discussing this exact topic, right? So, you spoke on how, the FBI was briefed on this and all of the, different type of stuff. And I thought it was very interesting going back to that one key word that we kept on talking about when it comes to white supremacists, contradictory and hypocrisy, right? I thought it was really interesting in the days following the amount of contradiction and hypocrisy that went on with non-Trump supporters. And the reason I'm saying that is because we spoke on, of course, the comparisons of the two protests. Of course, you had the ones in the summer, and then, of course, you have the ones right now. But I'm thinking about, okay, we was just talking about, and I won't say we because personally it wasn't me, and I don't think it was you either, but there was a lot of people talking about fuck the police, a lot of people talking about abolish the police, there's a lot of people talking about, we need to get rid of them all, and all of that type of shit. And we both gave our perspective on that. We both feel like we feel like the police could be reformed in a sense.
Yeah.
But I found it real crazy to see how the same people who was just tweeting at, say, the Las Vegas police and the fucking D.C. police and shit back in the summer, they was tweeting at them again, but trying to help them out. trying to tell them about who was at the Capitol. Hey, this is the picture. This is his name. This is his daughter's name. This is the school his daughter goes to and shit. And I'm like, bruh, all of y'all, people, you can't have it both ways. You sit up here and you always talk about not snitching. You always talk about when you see somebody not snitching, when a black person, man, look, bro, and this is what really pissed me off about the whole thing in all senses. I have never seen so many black people so welcome, so willing to snitch, bro. Online. And that's the crazy thing. And let me just finish. The thing that really pissed me off about the whole shit is, bro, I am from the East. I'm from New Orleans East, bro. Almost every year there's a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old that get killed, that get shot, and people know who it be. And right? You see what I'm saying?
Oh, no, you're definitely right.
But for random ass Capitol Police, oh no, we gotta hop on Twitter and do our job. Come on, man, what the fuck going on, bro? You see what I'm saying? You got stupid and all this shit is.
And I feel like that's a deeper issue with the black community. But let me say this in regards to the comparison we making between, with this politics shit. I totally understand what you're saying about how black people contradicted themselves because these are the same people who were saying abolish the police and all of this and that. But at the same time, and I hope I don't sound like an asshole by saying this, because how you were saying we should empathize with Trump supporters. This is, and that's the word I'm about to use here. I empathize with those people because all we want is the same treatment that we get. That's why they were doing it. It wasn't because, let me just contradict myself because, I don't like the police. But do your job now. No, we want the same treatment. They should have got the same treatment that we were getting for the whole year. That's the only reason why they were doing what they were doing.
Yeah, I know and I understand. And I mean, I'm not blind. I know that's exactly why they was doing that, is because they was trying to get equal justice, quote unquote. Right. But my main thing is, if y'all know the system isn't equal from the jump, mm-hmm. Why is you still trying to help? And this is my main thing. You trying to help a system that you know isn't equal when it benefits you. And that's the problem that I have with it. Because
how did it benefit us? How would that benefit us?
It's not all right. So it benefits you because you get a sense of self-justice in a sense. Mm-hmm. You get a sense of feeling, okay, now that I know it could happen to me and it can definitely happen to them, I feel better because mm-hmm. you didn't necessarily have that feeling. Right. And what I'm saying is, you know deep down you shouldn't feel better because it isn't really
still
like
the same
that.
Old system, right?
It's the same old system. Is only benefiting you because it's Trump supporters. If it was Joe Biden and all of them, and they stormed the Capitol because the electors voted for Trump, do you feel like all of this shit would have? You see what I'm saying, bro? And that's
honestly,
what I'm trying.
Honestly, I really do, son. And the reason I'm saying that I feel like it would have been the same type of reaction is because I'm gonna say the same type of reaction from the black citizen is because it shows their white privilege. So if it was Biden supporters doing that, I feel like we would have been the same way. Why are these white people allowed to walk up to the Capitol and waltz right in there? Whereas if it was us, we would have been shot before we stepped on the lawn. That's why I feel. That's how I feel.
I 1000% disagree with you on that, bro, because there's no way. All right. One of the biggest reasons that black people is all riled up about this shit is all because of race. And the key thing that makes them so on the side of course, Biden is because they feel like Trump is a racist. Mm-hmm. And if that man is the racist, then his supporters have to be a racist also. So black people have a feeling in them that this is the ops. This is flat out opposition. So they're the enemy. You see what I'm saying? So they don't feel that exact vitriol towards just a random white person. I mean,
and I can understand that because after these past 4 years and the shit we've dealt with from Charlotte, I don't know if you remember that. That protest in Charlotte, with all the white
what a dude drove a car through the thing.
Oh yeah, from all of that to January 6th, I definitely agree that because it is Trump supporters, it feels that I ain't gonna lie, it feels that much better that they're getting their asses arrested because that's what they deserve. Right. But the point I'm making is, and from most of what I've seen when people are talking about this, of course it is because those Trump supporters are radicalized. But the main points that I've been seeing made is not necessarily comparing, Trump supporters to just Republicans to Democrats. It's more so these black protesters compared to these white protesters, rioters. And, there were black people rioting and looting. It's not good. But I feel like that's where the basis of the comparison was. All people were saying is, why are these white people allowed to do this? Because if it was us, just look at how they were prepared for Black Lives Matter protesters. They had the National Guard standing up there in formation. Whereas these people were able to just march on in there.
And let me just give you a little bit of remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In the summer of last year, you do remember that the vast majority of people in those protests, I'll say it again, Black Lives Matter protests, the majority of those people in those protests, you do remember they wasn't black.
It was a good bit of white people.
No. It wasn't a good bit of black people. I'll say this. 75% out of 100 of those people were not black. Am I lying?
I don't think it was that big of a disparity, but you are right. There were probably more, especially too, because it was the height of COVID and black folks don't play.
and what I'm saying is during all of those protests, the majority of those people were white. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is you can't necessarily say that, okay, the Black Lives Matter protest, you know, they saw it as a black versus white type of thing when the majority of the people in the Black Lives Matter protest were white. I mean, like, if you're just looking at the pictures, if you're looking at the videos, even the dude in Kennesaw, you remember the dude, I don't know if it's Kennesaw, but the dude in Wisconsin who shot those two people?
Oh, yeah.
They were white.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the videos, it was number white people running. If you look at the videos, bro, if you even look at the one in New Orleans, I leave that video when it was on the bridge, majority of them people's white, bro. And that's what I'm saying.
Well, from me personally, most imagery that I've seen is black people. When it comes to what the police are actually, the way they're abusing their power and the way they're treating them. When I see most of that imagery, it's and maybe that points to back to episode 1 where it's the brainwashing type
Thank
of thing.
you. And I was just about to explain that to you myself, because that I mean, obviously you're going to only see, you know, if you're trying to get a certain message across that black people is getting abused, you ain't going to show the police abusing no white people. Okay. You ain't going to retweet. You're not going to retweet police abusing white people. You're going to retweet police abusing black people. And that's why you saw more of that.
Let me ask you this. So let's not forget the whole reason why these protests started in the first place. Do you feel like there's a disparity between the way cops treat black people just in any given situation? So why is it that we can't see this situation as, you know, it's not just Trump supporters? Now, I don't want to say we can't see. I'm basically trying to see why you skewing away from that, the thought process that our backlash is more about it being it's white people. Like, why you don't think we would feel the same way if it was white Biden supporters doing the same thing? Because, like I said, personally, I feel like we would feel just the same way. Do them what y'all been doing us.
Again, solely because I feel like we have that battery in our back of seeing an enemy. I mean, it's really hard to explain because the other scenario didn't happen. So, I mean, it's sort of kind of, you know, playing hearsay or whatever. But I really do feel like with that battery in people's back of having an enemy and already seeing red, like you're just going to be more aggressive towards the opposition compared to being aggressive towards a person that you maybe just might not like off of stereotype.
And you know what contributed, and you know what, and I feel like you might be right in a sense, and this is why I'm saying this, because the same way I was talking about how those people contradicted themselves in nearly every aspect when they stormed the Capitol, I feel like we most definitely had the point of view of give them the same treatment, because they literally, like I said, they literally contradicted themselves. They're the same ones who said Blue Lives Matter and the same ones who condemned our protests, but they're doing the same thing to the same police officers. Sure. So I feel like that played a major factor too, as into, you know, us wanting to see the same type of outcome, because y'all the same people who talk down on us for, the past 4 years. So I think that does play a factor too. I give you that. But at least me personally, I don't care who you support. I don't think a white person should be able to do that, because I know for a fact a black person wouldn't be able to do that. They would have been dead.
Well, and there's no disagree with you there. That's why, again, I started everything off with saying, I hope they get the justice that we would get.
Right.
Saying, of course, I'm literally only talking about the people who stormed the Capitol. Mm-hmm. Because if it ain't fair for us, then I mean, it is what it is on their end. Mm-hmm. But my main thing is, I'm not going to go out my way. If I don't care about the police right now, I'm not going to go out my way to do their job. Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep it the same way I kept it in the summer. And that's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that's a good mindset, because I'm not too sure if it is. Because if that's my mindset, then that obviously means I don't snitch. And I don't know if that's a good mindset to have and continue having if we trying to keep advancing as people. Because like I said, in the East, every year, that's literally a reoccurring story on NOLA.com. So,
and I feel like too that, and I don't want us to blur the lines of black culture and street culture, because the no snitching thing is definitely street culture. Just if you didn't know, for people who listen, if you didn't know, that's more of a street culture thing. I'm not a street nigga. I'm not a street dude. So if you break in my house and I know who you are, I'm snitching. If you kill my cousin, I know who you are. Call it what you want. I don't care. But yeah, let's not blur the lines there.
No. And you're right. It is a set of lines that come with it. But my main thing is, it's not accepted in black culture. So if it's street culture, it's blended in with black culture. If it's not, what I'm saying is snitching isn't accepted, because you can't say, oh yeah, well, he did kill my blank, so I had to do blank. And what I'm saying is, if you do that in a room of people, they're going to look at you and be like, what? You did what? You see what I'm saying? It's just a fact. They're going to be like, well, why didn't you retaliate? You know how shit go, bro. So what I'm saying is, oh, go ahead.
Oh, my bad. I was just about to say that right there, that's a deeper problem with the black community. And we all, and I don't want to get off, too far off topic, but we always talk about what's wrong with the country, and we need to fix problems within ourselves first before we can go and say this country need to treat us a certain way.
To be quite honest with you, that word, I'm so glad, because when you said that, it just came across my mind. That's really the basis of this entire topic, retaliation. This whole time we've been discussing retaliation. We've been talking about how white people that supported Trump retaliated to his loss. We've been talking about how, of course, we as a black, culture been retaliating to what we saw as far as helping the police and different things like that. We also been talking about how we feel like we should retaliate with these, the rest of the supporters that's not criminals, that really hasn't done criminal activity, right? We talking about how we should retaliate with them. If we should be sympathetic. I'm not sympathetic. I don't know why the fuck I keep saying sympathetic. Empathetic. Or if we should be, a little bit more aggressive with our retaliation. And that's kind of what I'm trying to, you see what I'm trying to get at throughout this whole episode. I'm trying to more so measure how we as not just black people, really as a country, retaliate towards this whole situation, because there has to be something that comes from this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, just to kind of go back a little bit about leadership and political correctness, Sleepy Joe ain't the best, but it's damn sure a breath of fresh air to listen to him speak and actually take something away from what he was saying.
Well,
ain't one Donald Trump, ain't one Trump speech that I can hear where I'm thinking, damn, that was pretty good. He'll sit up there and tell a story for an hour and a half and his audience will eat it up. And what I'm saying is, when I say it's a breath of fresh air, somebody who knows how, or at least seems to know how, play that role, however you want to, chop it up.
Right.
It just sounds like he knows how to bring people together. And all Trump has done during his 4 years is divide people. That's how I feel.
Yeah. And it's funny that you actually say he knows how to speak. I'm talking about Biden because
I know he'd be stumbling and all of that shit. But I'm saying, like, when you actually listen to the words he's saying and the shit he's saying, it has something behind it. Matter of fact, a good example of that. What's the guy? You actually live in Georgia. What's the Democrat who just won the Senate race? The white guy. Is it John Ossoff?
Yeah,
bruh. That dude right there, he should definitely run for president sometime soon. The way he speaks and the way, like, honestly, son, this is one of the first politicians I can look at, and he's politically correct, but I'll be damned if he ain't telling you like it is. If he ain't telling that shit straight. Like, the way he speak and the way he carry himself, he definitely look like he can be a great president in the future.
Well, all right. Now, with the Ossoff guy, and then we ain't about to keep talking about politics.
Yeah.
But with the Ossoff guy, I'll say this. I personally didn't get caught up in the runoff thing solely because of I listened to the Warnock person, I listened to the Ossoff person, and I didn't, of course, care about the Republican side because, I mean, I know I wasn't going to really vote for them anyway. But I listened to them because I'm just interested in who these two people is, the Ossoff and Warnock person. Man, every single time I listened to them, bruh, all they talked about was Trump. And it's like, fam, if y'all gonna base y'all whole, and this is my whole problem with all of the Democrats that ran for the president. If y'all gonna base y'all whole campaign off of Trump, y'all just doing the same thing y'all do every single election with black people. Y'all trying to play the race card.
And let me just say too, how I came to that opinion, it was based off of the debate that he had with what's the guy's name who was in office already?
Perdue.
Yeah. I listened to his debate with him, and the disparity just right there alone. And this is why I think the Republican Party is just so funny, because those same people were literally not showing up to the second debates because they were getting their asses handed to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just things like that in little interviews I see him give on, on the news. Like, it was he went on Fox and he did an interview, and the way he looked, and this is something Joe Biden did very well. And like I said, I don't want to get too far off, but the way he looked into the camera and he speak directly to you, and just, bro, I think that's a good thing for Georgia, bro. I think y'all in some good hands right now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, man. Get this nigga the fuck out of here with this bullshit, man.
Hey, real talk, bro. Hey,
but
when you think about it.
I'm joking, bro. I'm joking.
Hey, the Democrats got damn near the whole government now. Now, if no change happen in the next 4 years, then I don't know what to tell you. It's just as blatant as, they literally have the means to make some real change in the next 4 years. So we're going to see.
I think some change going to happen, but I don't think it's going to be for who we expect it to be for. But honestly, bro, what I realized is all of this talk about, politicians and of course the Capitol and like just all of this political talk, it is very valuable if, of course, you don't necessarily care about all of this shit and you just want to get a little bit of some perspective of people that, you may see as relatable. Like me and my partner Hugh. And, if you do see us as valuable, then what I recommend is just giving some value back. And how you give some value back can be in a few different ways, right? It can be, just listening all the way through, listening to this podcast from start to finish. That is extremely valuable to us. Of course, it can come by way of giving us some feedback, giving us some topic suggestions, telling us what you did like, telling us what you didn't like. That is extremely valuable to us. And last but certainly not least, it can be in the way of a donation. We definitely welcome donations. That is extremely valuable to us. Now, it can be from whatever range y'all deem is valuable, whatever range you got from the show. That is perfectly fine with us as a return from value. Of course, we accept, like I said, all of those different forms of value, but we do rely on that from you guys, all of those different forms. Of course, listening all the way through, of course, telling someone, of course, like I said, giving some feedback or giving donations. We rely on that to keep the show going. So if you do like it, if you do like what we're providing, if you do find it valuable, consider giving us some value back. And that can be done at KRUEClothing.com. That is KRUE Clothing.com. We are presented by KRUE Clothing, a house for 4 kings. Kings remain unified eternally. That's what KRUE stands for, by the way, just in case you didn't know. And it's the house of 4 people, like I said, that basically believe in independence. They believe in independence, they believe in royalty, and they believe that if you yourself want to become a king, want to become a queen, if you want to live that lifestyle, then you have to have self-improvement, and you have to believe and have self-confidence in, of course, which you believe in. So, KRUE Clothing, like I said, they have all types of products. They actually just released the Ascension hoodie for pre-order. And by the way, I think they may actually be releasing some things for Valentine's Day. I just got word. So give them a look. Follow them on Instagram, KRUE Clothing _. And again, KRUEClothing.com. And that's when we can be funded. Back to the show. So I really do feel like, everything that happened in the media over the last, I guess you could say, 2 weeks, I do feel like it's sort of orchestrated in a sense. Mm-hmm. It's orchestrated to influence us, of course, but to, I guess you could say, keep us, specifically Black people, in check. And the reason you say that, and the reason I say that is because while I was looking at all of that stuff that was going on in the Capitol, the thing I kept on hearing in the media is, if Black people was doing this, they would have been shot. If Black people was doing this, they would have been killed. Oh my goodness. Just imagine, they were showing shots of people climbing the Capitol walls and stuff. If that was Black people, you'll see nothing but dead bodies instead of people climbing the walls and people storming. And I'm like, okay, I get that. And then the next day, I turned on ESPN, and guess what Max and Stephen A. and all of them were saying? The exact same shit. So it really made me think, like, damn, all of the media is pushing this same narrative instead of talking about, the blatant stuff. Like, bro, it was crazy as hell to see. Like, the main thing they was talking about was how Black people can't do this shit. And of course, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with them, but I'm just saying, like, why is that the first thing on everybody's mind? Like, across the board, everybody kept saying that. Did you get that too on your end?
Oh, most definitely. And I feel like it's a great question to ask. And the reason I say that is because it makes you look at the difference of policing. It makes you look at the preparedness of BLM protests compared to Stop the Steal protests. So, I look at it and I don't see a red flag there. And the reason I say it is because it's a blatant comparison. Right. And it's a question that does need to be answered. Why?
And you actually made my point. Mm-hmm. My point is blatant. So if something is blatant and that's the case, why do you need why do you feel the need to continue to remind people nonstop for a week? Like, bro, on CNN, Fox, ESPN, like I just mentioned, ABC, CBS, like, bro, Twitter, wherever you get your news from, everybody was spewing the same thing. And I'm not saying there's a problem with asking that question, but my main thing is, it begs me to ask the question, why is everybody asking the same question all at one time?
Okay, so I feel like it's a couple of things, actually. I feel like, for one, and this is always the case with social media, but, you know, everybody has an opinion. Everybody feels their voice can be heard now. So, you know, of course, one person says something, people piggyback off of that. Some people have, you know, the same sentiments. But I feel like, too, when it comes to the media, of course, this is it will go down as a, you know, a very historic day in our country. Yeah. So, you know, initially, like I said, all of these media sources want to hop on and talk about what happened. And because we're saying that it's such a blatant, you know, question, you know, it's an obvious question that needs to be asked. A lot of things has been said about it, is what I'm trying to say. Everybody has said something about it. So at some point, you're going to run into the same points being made. And with this, I just feel like I said, it was the most glaring thing that stood out when, you know, we were watching this happen. And especially coming off of, you know, 2020, that was just a crazy year. So, I don't think it necessarily is anything shady per se, but I do feel like everybody, like you're saying, it's obvious, but it needs to be said, because why? Like, why? Why is that the case?
Yeah. And all right. That is a very true and realistic point of view. Mm-hmm. Now, let me give you my point of view. Mm-hmm. My point of view coming from all of this is, you have an event where, don't get me wrong, a lot of dangerous things took place. A lot of illegal things took place, which is why I took the stance of, hey, if you got to, you know, do justice, do your thing. Mm-hmm. But you have an event where the media is classifying people as terrorists. Am I right or wrong about that? A lot of people was, you know, being classified as terrorists during this event, right? And then in that same breath, they say, but black people can't do this. Now, I truly do feel like, you know, it's okay to have that be a talking point. It's okay to have, you know, people discuss that. But I truly do feel like if you have all of the stations and all of the media across the board have that same narrative, that's when it becomes a little bit, I guess you could say, conspiracy based. I guess that's when it becomes like a little red flag to me. Like, why in the world does everybody need to push the message? And this is just my explanation of it, why they would do this. Why do they need to push the message that all of these people are terrorists, but black people can't do this, but white people is perfectly fine doing this? I truly do feel like it's just another way to make black people fall into that victim mindset. Okay. And I feel like a lot of people fell right into that shit. Because, again, if it's something blatant, you don't need to remind people of that every single time, because they already know it. So it's like a rhetorical question. And if you follow it up by saying the people who's doing this is terrorists, which is, of course, what we deem as something that's like one of the worst possible things you could be. Mm-hmm. But they're getting away with basic terrorism, which is, of course, you know, something that we deem as just flat out unfair, obviously. Then it's going to rile people up, and it's going to make them feel like victims. It's going to make them feel like, damn, I'm just being, you know, it's just completely unfair to me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they're doing that, again, because they do that it feel like the media does this almost every 6 months. They find a different way to make black people feel like victims, to remind them that you victims. So later on, and this is my whole conspiracy, and I don't think it's 100% true, but I do feel like the media demonizes black people and they make them feel like victims. In the nighttime and in the evening time, that's when they demonize black people. In the morning time and, in the afternoon time, that's when they make them feel like victims. And it's a continuing cycle. It's a continuing cycle. That way they make black people feel like victims so they don't have ambition. And that's what we discussed in our last podcast, talking about economic structure. In order to have ambition, you have to, of course, in order to be successful, you have to have ambition and goals and, all of these type of things first, and the ability to communicate and collaborate with each other. But if you're feeling like victims all of the time, then you won't have the drive. Like I said, if you always feel like you're placed behind the 8 ball, along with not having the financial literacy and stuff like that, then you're not going to necessarily have that success that you desire. So along with, like I said, the demonization of black people, that breaks the collaboration, because, if you black and you're trying to collaborate with somebody else black and you have that stereotype in your head, then it's going to be hard to communicate with them, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm thinking all of this, kind of has that red flag of they're just trying to further influence black people, especially with this event. I feel like they just fully took advantage of it and fully just tried to make it another instance where they could just make black people feel like victims. Same thing they do when a black person gets murdered by the police. It's another event to rile black people up. And I'm not saying, they shouldn't report on it, but when you go about the business of covering it every single day for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and everybody and their parents already know what the outcome can be. But the media, they do it in a certain way to make, you know what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. To make black people even more aggravated and more riled up and make them want to protest about it. And, it's just hard. It's hard for me to explain, but I really do feel like all of this was just to influence us. It was really to influence us and to put us in our place. I'm talking about the media's coverage of this Capitol thing, because the way they took it, it was very weird. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I'm saying all of this shit. If you think about it, over the past 4-5 years, what is something black people been clamoring and screaming for, right? They've been clamoring and screaming for white people who do these mass shootings to be seen as what?
Terrorists.
The media, one time, has they ever seen or described them people as terrorists?
No, you got a point.
But for some reason, now that they stormed the Capitol, not necessarily saying that they, mass murdered 50 people, which is something somebody actually did. Mm-hmm. Not saying that they went into a church and killed random people because of their skin color, which is something somebody actually did. And they didn't call them terrorists. They said they had mental health issues. You remember all of this, right? Mental health. That was the main thing the media was pushing. Now, all of a sudden, they're terrorists. You see what I'm getting at, bro? Mm-hmm. Why? Because now we can make black people. This is a situation where black people can feel like victims. Because if we call them terrorists, it will make black people really, really feel like, okay, these people are some of the most dangerous people in the world, but nothing is, look at the repercussions compared to us. We just mind our own business and we get our repercussions. That is literally the formula to making somebody feel like a victim. Do you agree with that?
I can agree with, okay, so let me say this. I do find it strange that at that time, when we were having issues with mass shootings here in America, how they were reluctant to call these people homebred terrorists. And I feel like, it's hard to compare too, because it is a shocking image of somebody just shooting into a crowd or killing a bunch of people, right?
Right.
And I think, and I don't want to sound like, like an asshole saying this, which it doesn't reflect my feelings, but I'm just trying to, kind of explain away why it could be the way it is. I feel like once these people actually put I'm going to say their uniforms on, and I'm talking about white supremacists. You have all of these groups now. They out there, they showing their face. They got their shirts on. They repping they, whatever you want to call it. You can call it a gang, whatever you want to call it. And I think it was shocking to see not only that, these people were being openly racist, but couple that with the fact that they're not even in like, I'm gonna just say Vermont or Nevada or something. Mm-hmm. They in Washington D.C. and they just stormed a federal government building at that. I feel like those two things coupled, I feel like they had no choice but to label them as what they really are. Whereas with the mass shooters, you don't know their views. You don't know their, I think that's the difference, is that you know what these people are about. You know the reason why they're doing what they're doing. Whereas with mass shooters, which they are still domestic terrorists, but you don't really know their motive when they're doing what they're doing. Whereas we've known their motive since before the election, really for the past 4 years, but before the election to what happened. So I feel like that played a part of them being more willing to call them what they really are. But in no way am I saying that the mass shooters aren't, terrorists. I feel like they all just that, like, they all in that umbrella. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like it was the situation coupled along with the people who actually did it. Like I said, they were wearing they shit proudly. Also with the timing of everything. So I feel like everything kind of comes together. It was like, I guess you could say the perfect storm. It's, to the point where it's like, okay, you have to call it like it is. You have to, be upfront with what's going on, because now you're attacking our democracy. Right. If that makes sense. You're attacking our government. So any group that's going to attack the American government automatically going to be seen as terrorists. So they really had no choice but to put that label on them.
And all right, I see what you're saying, and there's a point of agreement with that. My main pushback from that would be, if you're the media and your whole base is reporting fairly, unbiased, quote unquote, right?
Yep.
You have to think about how people would view your definition of terrorism.
Right.
If you finally want to describe somebody as a terrorist who, and I'm not saying it's somebody, but it's a group of people, you want to describe them as terrorists, but you completely just have pushback on another group. But then when it comes to say, what is a terrorist group? The Al Qaeda and all of them, ISIS and all of them. When you look at them and you look at their tactics and what they do, and then you look at what, of course, the mass shooters do, and you think it's very similar.
Right.
Their goal is the end, end goal of pushing that message of, complete fucking chaos and shit like that. Well, I mean, I don't know what the fuck these people end goal is, but it's like you have to be consistent with that. At least, you just have to, because terrorism is literally a platform that launched us into a whole war. So what I'm saying is, you can't just utilize a platform that killed a whole lot of people, mind you, like I said, in war to fight terrorism, And you can't just, pick and choose when to use that platform. You have to use it consistently. And if, somebody killing 13 people isn't a terroristic act, then what the hell is?
Right.
And that's my whole reasoning behind, just saying that we have to really look at the media in this event and look at them in a more close-up eye and really wonder, okay, why is they so focused on putting name tags on these people, and also why is they so focused on pushing a race narrative?
Mm-hmm. And I think too, like from a common sense standpoint, me and you can look at both of those instances. Speaking of, a mass shooting and insurrection, and say that though that's an act of terrorism. But I think another issue, which, we're not highlighting is, and I think I said it earlier, but the way the FBI handles domestic terrorism as opposed to foreign terrorism, the way they classify it and what they deem something that they should take action on. And I think that plays a factor as well. If I'm not mistaken, and excuse me if I use the wrong terminology here, but I think I don't want to say an audit, but basically a check of procedures were done on the FBI, and they passed everything with flying colors except domestic terrorism.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
So it just makes you look at that alone, and that goes back to our system. And it's like, we have to find a better way to deal with these type of things. But I totally agree with what you were saying when you say we have to be consistent with the way they have to be consistent with the way they report news. And they can't just pick and choose when they want to use certain terms, or not.
Right. Again, because when they do that, like I said, it literally feeds into the victim mindset of things. Mm-hmm. Like that, when you utilize the word terrorism in that term to make, things seem unfair and unjust to a certain demographic of people, mm-hmm. then you're basically victimizing them. And again, I see this consistently on a cycle with the media. They do this. It seems like every few months they just find another way to victimize Black people, to keep them in that bubble, to keep them in check. And this is just something pretty quick from Emory University regarding, I guess you could say, brainwashing. But it isn't exactly what we were talking about in the first episode. It's more so how Black people are brainwashed. Mm-hmm. And it's a quick 3-minute clip.
Okay.
And let me just.
By Emory University.
As the incumbent, President Obama has a 4-year track record on which to run. And so he can make prospective promises that people are going to judge him based on the results that he's delivered up until this point. And so because the economy is still very fragile, there are a lot of people who don't trust him, and they are really fearful about the future. So they may actually be open to an appeal for change from somebody else. I would anticipate that we're not going to see any changes in African-American voting behavior in terms of who they identify with in terms of party and who they vote for. So I would expect that 90% or more of African-Americans who vote in 2012 will vote for President Obama. 2012 is not 2008. This is not the opportunity to elect the first African-American president because it's been done before. And given the fragile state of the economy, African-Americans have a reason to be disappointed in their president.
And I'm going to just pause at the 1-minute mark right quick, just to give you all a little, because I realized I started this without background. So this clip that we're talking about, they're going into this. They took this from October 2011. So this was before Obama's second term. This is literally before the election that led to Obama's second term in 2012. So basically, they were talking about how Black people are always influenced to vote for the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. And she was basically discussing how one of the main reasons Black people, was influenced to vote for Obama in the first place was because I identified with Obama. by him being black. So I'll just go ahead and continue. This is just background just to show you what she was talking about.
As a result of this, I don't expect that people are going to be as enthusiastic about returning to vote for President Obama, though they likely will not vote for a Republican candidate because Republicans don't align ideologically with most African Americans. Latinos are also disproportionately affected by the economy. They saw their wealth cut in half over the course of this recession. And they've also been disproportionately affected by unemployment as well. And so a lot of the concerns that face the African-American community are also felt in the Latino community as well. The whole brainwashing episode reflects this tension within the African-American community between group identity and individual identity. Most African-Americans end up siding on the side of group identity. So most African-Americans profess a belief in the idea of linked fate, that what happens to other Blacks affects them. Those who have linked fate usually are much more supportive of expansive government and other strategies that will help to improve the overall quality of life.
Linked fate, remember that.
For African-Americans in the United States. I wouldn't expect African-Americans to, by and large, switch their typical voting behavior to vote for a Black Republican candidate just because they have the option of not having to factor the candidate's race into their decision calculus. They're going to vote on their partisan preferences, and they're going to vote on their policy preferences. And President Obama is much more aligned from a policy standpoint and from an ideological standpoint with the vast majority of African-American voters than Herman Cain is. In order to be reelected, President Obama needs to preside over a growing economy. So President Obama needs to redouble his efforts, as he's doing now, to try to focus on job creation and improving the economy. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's individual businesses that create jobs, but they need to know that there's an administration that is supportive of job creation and that is helping to create jobs and working with Congress to make that happen.
So, were you able to dissect everything that she?
Oh, yeah.
So, well, first, let me ask you, what did you get from what she was talking about?
So basically, I know towards the end, she was saying that if it were a Black Republican running, we would probably still be more likely to vote Democratic because of our views. And to simplify it, basically, I don't want to say we have a herd mentality, but we move as a unit because we understand each other, so to say. So because of that, our views kind of align much more with Democratic views, which is more progressive and helping the majority instead of the few. And that those type of things. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, for the most part, I'll say that. Let me just go ahead and rewind it a little bit just to get that one term that she said that was very important.
The episode reflects this tension within the African-American community between group identity and individual identity. Most African-Americans end up siding on the side of group identity. So most African-Americans profess a belief in the idea of linked fate, that what happens to other Blacks affects them.
Linked faith.
Mm-hmm.
Linked faith. That right there. That is how the media brainwashes us. That is how they play on us all of the time. That right there is how they have control over us. Linked faith. They go under the presence and knowledge of understanding that we as Black people, the way we've been taught by you know who, we've been taught to have this linked faith, to have this, we have to move as a one unit, which in some instances does have its positives, does have a lot of positives. In some instances, like what I'm about to explain right now, it has a very, very, very enormous amount of negatives. And one of the biggest negatives is this thought of linked faith, that we all have basically a linked faith, that, you know, just because somebody is going through something, it's going to happen to me too. And one of the biggest examples of that, one of the biggest examples of that is our relationship or lack thereof with the police. And we just go under the impression of thinking, like, come on. And this is just, and I'm not saying, you know, there isn't racist police or there isn't police brutality, because let's just not be naive. But what I am saying is the way we are taught and the way we are, you know, the lack thereof, like I said, of the relationship that the Black people community culture have with the police is basically because of us having fear. And it pretty much is both sides. The police kind of have a fear of us.
Right.
And they are under that same exact impression, linked fate. They feel that, you know, they have a linked faith with the next police officer. And I feel like that right there is one of the biggest reasons why we don't necessarily have what we are looking for when it comes to justice. When it comes to justice and how we're portrayed in the media and how we're portrayed, say, when white people are storming the Capitol. Solely because they don't see their faiths connected. They don't see, they not necessarily saying that they don't see themselves as a team, or they don't see themselves as, a unified group. But when they identify with each other, because they may be poor or broke, and they may want certain policies to change in the government. We identify with each other because we're used to being victims. Do you see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
And that is why when we have that linked faith and that victim mindset constantly being pushed on us, like I said, throughout a cycle, that is why things really rarely change. Because you accept that victim mentality, because you accept having a linked faith with someone.
Yeah.
So if one person is a victim, you become a victim along with them. So if you feel like, oh, that person got fired from their job because they Black, you may feel like you got fired from your job because you Black too. You see what I'm saying, bro?
Right.
And it goes the same way, say, if you in school. If, you see somebody get an F on their paper and they Black, and you looking, I'm talking about, say, if you in college and you in a class with white and Black people, and, you Black and you get an F on your paper, you think it's because of the same thing. The teacher racist all of a sudden. You see what I'm saying? And we laughing because we heard this before.
Yeah.
We heard this mad times before.
Yeah.
Of having racist teachers, all because we have that quote unquote linked faith with the next person that we may think is, you see what I'm saying, bro?
Yeah.
And when you have that linked faith mentality, it's literally the key to somebody victimizing you. And it goes the same way in a lot of different instances. Say if somebody, and this is just outside of being Black or white, if somebody had their house broken into before, they're going to identify with somebody having their house, another person having their house broken into.
Right.
Because they're victims. Literally. They're literally victims. So if somebody, say, broke into my house and they stole something, so now I'm, much, much, much more anxious. And next time, I may hold a party by my house. People may wonder, okay, why are you so anxious? You wasn't anxious last time. The person that maybe have had their house broken into along with me, they'll be able to understand why now. Because they're victims too. And they may actually be a little bit more anxious along with me. They may be looking, in the bathroom, not in the bathroom, but maybe looking, around to see if somebody stole something, even though it ain't their house. Because again, the victim thing. And that's all. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like all of this shit, it all makes sense if you really sit back and look at it and think, okay, this is, this is what's really going on.
It is just hard not to. And I guess that's because we've been conditioned for it all of our lives. But I don't know, it's just certain things you look at. And of course, we always, look at the system itself. whether that be the
white supremacy.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's the judicial system or the way police treat us, or the way the police and the way they're doing their jobs. But you never really stop to look at the role the media will play in all of this. And it is easy to look right past it, because you can tell me if I'm actually making your point here by sounding like a victim. But I mean, all of the shit that so many smacks to the face that we get. And it's like, I'm having trouble explaining what I really want to say. But basically, all I'm saying is it's easy to look past what the media might be doing, or the way they might play a role into it, as far as the whole brainwashing aspect goes, because we really are, facing these issues in our country that does need to be addressed. So, yeah, I feel like it's another double-edged sword.
And you're right. You actually right about both of those points. You was making my point. And then two, I do feel like you are right about it being, the media, in a sense of it. It's kind of like they're doing their job. So what do you expect, Elwood? But my main thing is like, I understand they're doing their jobs, but if you look back at what propaganda is, doing the news is reporting.
The way the news reports isn't traditional to what we were called traditional reporting. I feel like the way the news reports now is much more propaganda based, especially how we've been trained to view propaganda. Of course, that being just a little bit of an extra step on normal reporting, but now you're trying to do it with the knowledge of trying to influence. And I feel like that's exactly what the media does with us. And I'm talking about us as Black people and our mindsets, as far as how they influence us with this Black victim mindset that they are continuously trying to push on us. I truly do feel like that it's just flat out propaganda, a lot of this stuff. Not necessarily saying that the police brutality and different things like that is all propaganda and straight propaganda, but just the way you go about the business of reporting on those different type of things in a continuous cycle, and the way you go about the business of just using keywords, it turns people into victims with propaganda, I'll say. But all in all, I truly do feel like we give the media power by allowing them to influence us, by not, of course, being able to talk amongst each other and, I guess you could say tear down that influence, tear down that power of propaganda. And I feel like a solution to all of this that we pretty much talked about today is that keyword retaliation, picking and choosing how we retaliate. Right. So picking and choosing how we retaliate, say, with ourselves, picking and choosing how we retaliate with by ourselves. Of course, I mean other people in the Black people community culture, along with picking and choosing how we retaliate with, say, the media. When we see propaganda, how we're going to retaliate to that. Are we going to go out and become a victim, or are we going to stand up to that? Picking and choosing, of course, how we retaliate to Trump supporters. All of this is based off of retaliation, and how we move forward is how we retaliate. So with all of that being said, I'm L the Designer.
I'm La Roc.
And we are the ShiftMakers. And again, as always, think for yourself, live for others, and tell everyone what you heard. We at the ShiftMakers are presented by KRUE Clothing, and that means that if you want to support us, if you want to give feedback, if you want to go about the business of adding value to this show, go ahead on to KRUEClothing.com and, pick and choose how you want to add value. You can do that, of course, like I said, through listening all the way through, telling somebody, like I said, what you heard, go ahead, putting somebody else on game to the show. They may find a lot of value through it. Of course, giving us your feedback, giving us your comments, your arguments, your discussions, telling us what you like, telling us what you didn't like, and giving us those donations. Of course, we definitely do appreciate that. We now offer donations via Venmo and PayPal, and all of that can be done by looking at the ShiftMakers tab at KRUEClothing.com. Again, that is KRUE Clothing.com. And KRUE Clothing. Those people, they're exceptional. Their mission, they're exceptional. Their vision, they're exceptional. And the upcoming release that they have for Valentine's Day, I think you may think it's exceptional. So go ahead and check that out when you get a chance with the ShiftMakers.